Hey, hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Well, it's been a while. The last one I posted here on my YouTube channel was when I was in Sweden, and I've now come back from my summer holiday and I relaxed and do all of those things, just enjoy the weather really, because we had really nice weather here in the UK and in Sweden as well, where I was visiting my family and friends. And I hope you had the same, that your summer is going well so far and you had an opportunity to enjoy it. And during my holiday now, I've listened to a lot of music on the streaming platforms, mainly Spotify in my case. And I was thinking for a while, what have dropped off my playlist during the year? Because usually when something is released that I'm really excited about, I pop it on my playlist so I can listen to it while going to work or and so forth and so on. But a lot of artists and tracks has dropped off during the year. So I thought, while I'm working on all those specials that I promised you guys during this year, I'm just going to do a quick one here, back from a holiday, so to speak, to reflect on some of the records that I bought this year, and do they still hold up? Do they still give me that joy to listen to? Do they still deserve a place on my playlist? So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to do. And to kick things off, I'm going to go with a release of Gina G and her album Fresh. I talked about this one just recently in one of my episodes. And back then when it was released, in the late 90s, I really frowned upon this. I thought it was a novelty record. We laughed a lot about it. But that main track, the track that really got her famous, Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit, it got stuck in your head, even if you loved it or you hated it, really. And over the years, and as I've gotten older, I got to appreciate it so much more. But I actually bought this one on a whim, this album, because I only heard 2 songs really from Gina G before that. But I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna support an independent record company. I think it was Cherry Pop who released this one. So I was like, yeah, it's a good deal. And if I don't like it, I can always sell it. But like I said in that episode, I really, really enjoy it. It's quirky. It's great Euro pop, Euro house, call it what you want, and it still gets me in a really, really good mood. So yes, Gina G's Fresh, still alive and well here in this household, both on my playlist, and gets a lot of spins on the turntable as well. And as a contrast, we got Sir Paul McCartney and Wings. And this is, of course, One Hand Clappin', an album that I talked about in length, I think in the same episode as Gina G, actually. And back then I said I really love this track, and it's so nice to hear Paul. His voice is really strong. He's really at his peak here. I know he still writes a lot of great songs, of course, and done that after this album. But this was when I think he was really at his peak. Like I said, his voice is so strong. The band is tight. And wow, yeah. So there's no doubt about it. I've been listening a lot to this album, and that album is, some of the tracks I would say is also featured on my playlist when I went on holiday. So I've been listening to this one a lot. And I'm also happy to say that the One Hand Clapping sessions, the film or the video that was shot for it but never was released back then, is going to be released now in UK cinema. So I'm going to try to catch that one. It's going to be really fun to see what it actually looked like, because we already know how it sounded like, right? So yeah, One Hand Clapping still on my list. And another artist that also released a new album this year is Dua Lipa. But we have to go back a bit to late last year when I picked up these 2 singles. This is Houdini and Training Season. I really love these albums, and these were just teasers for the upcoming album, really. And I was excited, especially about Houdini, which I feel is still a really good track. because I really fell in love with Dua Lipa and her music back when she released Future Nostalgia, and that is such a great album, right? And we haven't really heard anything new from her since then, so a new album I was really looking forward to it. The anticipation was high. So she did release Radical Optimism earlier this year. I think, was that in May? And I listened a lot to it at the time. Houdini and Training Season is of course on it, and there's some other brilliant tracks on this. End of an Era, which opens the album, I really like that one, and Illusion, of course, which was a third single from this album. I listened to that one a lot, but unfortunately I have to say this one has been collecting dust for the last month or two, really, because it was that intense first couple of listenings for me, but then I didn't really realize at that point. It was just now when I look back on what I bought over the last couple of months, when I realized, oh yeah, I haven't bought this one back for a while, and there is a reason, of course, and I haven't really pinpointed it exactly because I think the tracks are good. It's not what I felt with Future Nostalgia at all, because it's not the same album, of course, and she wants to move on. The sound is a bit different and all that, but there's something lacking with it, and I can't really pinpoint it. But yeah, so on that point, I know it's not getting heavy rotation anymore in this household, and it's not any of the tracks are featured on any of my playlists at this point. I might go back again to this album. Well, I'm sure I will, just to listen to it a couple of times. And then perhaps I can formulate a more logic response to you guys, why I don't feel this one holds up. But yeah, there's something that makes me not want to go back to this one. It doesn't grab me as much as her previous album, but that's just the way it is with music, right? Yeah. And now on to something again that's still on my playlist. It's been there since late April, beginning of May, and I'm talking about Olly Alexander and Dizzy. This was the UK entry for the Eurovision. Got a lot of slag here in the UK. Well, every entry basically from the UK the last couple of years got slagged quite heavily because they're not the right artist, they're weird or whatever. I don't care about that. I think Dizzy is a wonderful, wonderful song, and it's still featured on my playlists and get played a lot. And I especially like the extended version, which is actually featured here on this 7-inch as well. Yeah, just great. And I know a lot of people said it reminds them of Pet Shop Boys, really, but I always thought of this track, if you're gonna compare it to anyone, it sounds more Erasure to me than Pet Shop Boys. So that's just my 2 cents about that. But yeah, no, love this one. Olly Alexander still gets a lot of plays from me. And now I want to go to something that I talked about because a friend of mine recommended something summery. When I was talking about the summer hits or something like that in one of my episodes, I mentioned this one. This is Perry, and she was a member of Little Mix at one point. They're no longer a thing, and she decided, I'm going to do a solo career, and she kicked that off this year. And she kicked it off with this single, Forget About Us. I think it's a very forgettable single, pun intended. Written, among others, by Ed Sheeran, and it's very much an Ed Sheeran tune. I never really fancied him as an artist or any of his songs, really. I find them a bit meh. So, yeah. But she does deliver it really well. She have a great voice, but the song, no, it didn't really grab me. But it turns out she released a new single, which is called Tears. And once again, someone prompted me, say, you have to listen to this one. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to give it a go, because I really like her voice. So she released Tears, I think it was was it more than a month ago now? It doesn't really matter. But Tears is something completely different. It's not written by Ed Sheeran. She left that behind. It was just the opening single. This one is quite different, and there's something about this. I don't think it's super great, one of the best singles of years or anything like that, but there's something in the melody, in the song, that really hooks me. And I think it's especially leading up to the chorus, the chord changes there, it's just something that tugs on my heartstrings. And yeah, I love this one. So I have to say, Perry's new single Tears is also in heavy rotation for me at this point on my playlist. Because this is 7-inch, I don't actually pick it out to play it as much. I play it more on a streaming service just because of the format, really. But I'm glad that I got this one, because it is a really, really good one. Check it out if you haven't. It's a really, really good pop song. And like I said, it's not one of the greatest songs ever, but it's a promise for what's to come, perhaps, because she's eventually going to release a solo album, I'm sure of it. It's not just going to be singles. But this, if she goes with this sound instead of what we heard on this one, it's going to be a great success for Perry. So I'm going to keep an eye on her for sure. Really, really good. Yeah, we're just going to leave it there. And of course, I have to mention Brat. I was late to the party. I talked about that a couple of episodes back. But I never really paid much attention to Charlie XX. But then because of the playlist that I have, when that playlist ends, they usually gives us some recommendations of songs that perhaps you could like. And a song from Brat was just the case for me. I was like, what is this? And I know when I talked about this, I instinctively said Chicks on Speed or something like that. That attitude in the music. But now, after listening to it even more, because this is one of or perhaps the soundtrack to my summer, really, this Brat album from Charlie XX. I can now say that what I was really thinking about was Peaches, which I accidentally have here behind me. The Teachers of Peaches, the album is called. I believe that was her first album. I still listen to that one a lot. It's just the attitude. I won't say the lyrics, really, because they are very X-rated when it comes to Peaches, and not so much when it comes to Brat. But it's just the attitude of the lyrics, and I think also the whole production of it is very raw in places. With Brat, of course, it's a bit more polished in places than Peaches' album. But I think that is a fair comparison, really, now after that I listened to it so much. But yeah, I really, really love this one. My impression now after several listenings to it, it's a lot about nostalgia as well. A lot of looking back in the days when they went out clubbing and all of that. And I can relate to some of that, because I know this is not, I'm not really the target audience for this, but if it's good music, it's good music. I'm just going to love it, right? But when it comes to the lyrics, it's some of these younger artists, I can't really get all the references always, but I get a lot of the references from this. I used to go out clubbing a lot during the 90s. And like I said, to me, there's a lot of nostalgia behind this, a lot of looking back. And of course, there's also comments about her life now in general, and how she perceives people, and heartbreak and all of that. All of the things that should be an ingredient in a good pop song or a pop album, really. Yeah, but perhaps when I distilled all of this in my mind, I can give you a more coherent review of Brat. But I just want to say how grateful I am that I actually stumbled across one of her tracks, and that got me listening to even more tracks, and then eventually I bought this album, Brat. And I know I'm not alone in this. Someone called it, this is a Brat summer. And yeah, I agree, it is. I love that album. And to another one that I really, really loved, Pet Shop Boys, new album, Nonetheless. This one wasn't too long ago that they released this one, and I've been a long time fan of Pet Shop Boys, and this is the best album, I would say, since Very, in my opinion, or perhaps Bilingual. That was a really good album as well. Yeah, I will say Bilingual. Anyhow, I love the other albums as well, but not as much as the earlier ones. And I think this is back to form. A lot of people have said, yeah, this is back to the basics, back to what they was in the 80s. I tend to agree that statement, but there's also an involvement, of course, in Pet Shop Boys music. All artists should evolve over time, right? They shouldn't be stuck in one groove. And I think Pet Shop Boys keeps the balance really well on this album. So yeah, this one is certainly in heavy rotation still. Love the Nonetheless album from Pet Shop Boys. And another one that I really liked. This one was actually released just before I went on my holiday to Sweden, so I had to stream it. It actually arrived the day before we went, and I didn't have a proper time to sit down and put on the album, so I had to stream it. But this is, of course, Empire of the Sun, Ask That God, their latest album. It's been a long time since we heard from them, but this is a really welcome comeback. The sound is very recognizable. I was just talking about being stuck in the same groove. In this case, it's a really good thing. It's not really the same groove, but you instantaneously recognize Empire of the Sun when you hear a track from them, even if you're not that familiar with them. And I think I said this before, but if you put it on and someone say, oh yeah, it's what's their name? And you say, oh, that's Australian group, Empire of the Sun. Yeah, they do a really good job with this one, and I have to give it another couple of listens before I give a proper review of this, if I'm going to give it a proper review here, because I have so many things that I really want to review, and I have so many specials that I want to do. So we'll see where it leads. But yeah, I can highly recommend this if you loved what Empire of the Sun did in the early 2000s and 2010s. Check this out. Check this one out. You won't be disappointed. Really nice album. And the last one we're going to talk about is Katy Perry's Woman's World. I talked about this one before. I even had a whole separate video talking about this one and the problematic nature around a certain producer and a writer on this one. So I'm not going to go into that one. But at the time when it was released, at least I thought it was a decent pop song. I quite liked it, but I think after those 2 initial weeks, it's just faded out. And now it's just collecting dust as well. It's not on any of my playlists. The only track from Woman's World that actually is on one of my playlists is a mix that you can only get on the streaming services at the moment from Woman's World's EP or whatever it's called. It's an ambient kind of a track of Woman's World. You won't even recognize it as Woman's World, which could be a good thing for a lot of people out there. But yeah, it's like a droning, long, very Zen-like track. I really like that one, so I put it on one of my ambient playlists actually, and I quite like that version of it. Yeah, but that's the only remnants I have left of Woman's World. And since this one was released, she also released a second single from her upcoming album, which is called, I want to say Lifetimes, but I could be wrong. But that is even worse, in my opinion. At least this, like I said, I thought it was a decent pop song. There's a lot of problems with the people behind it, or a certain person behind it. But yeah, but this one, it's like, you know what, Katy? You need a summer hit now. We have the perfect formula for you. We have a cheesy house piano here, just taken straight from the 90s, from some Balearic house anthem that we found somewhere. Oh, I don't know where to begin. I can't even remember the chorus of this new single. It's such a mess, and it's so bland that I can't even begin to describe it. At least this one had a sort of a memorable chorus going for it, but this new one, and it doesn't bode well for the new album, in my opinion. I was really, and believe me, I was really looking forward to the new Katy Perry album, because it's been such a long time since we had anything from her, but this doesn't bode well at all. But we'll see. When the new album comes out, I might change my mind, but I do have to skip at least 2 tracks on that one, I think. Yeah. So yeah, that was some of the tracks that are still on my playlist, that I'm still getting a lot of plays on my turntable here at home, and some of them have dropped off. Thankfully, most of them still on my playlist and still get heavy rotation here. And I have, of course, bought even more albums and singles this year as well. But these are the ones that came to my mind, and I just wanted to bring them up. And now I want to hear from you guys. What is on your playlist this summer? What is your most listened to tracks, and what are some of the tracks that might have just faded out for you, just left into oblivion? I want to hear about those, so please put it down in the comments. It would be lovely to read that from you guys. So before I finish off for today, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you who subscribe to my channel. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing that and giving it a thumbs up and all of that things that we have here on YouTube. It really makes me motivated and keep things going. I love talking about music, and I love interacting with you guys. So if you do feel like commenting on anything, please do so. I would love that. But I will go back and prepare some of my specials for you guys, and I'll be back soon. Until then, take care of yourself, and as usual, adieu.